All right, so I believe there are some questions about the culminating task and what is going to happen on Monday. So in your preparation, I did give you all a specific exemplar that you are supposed to work with. So let's kind of start from scratch. If you're in the course, I've put various links around on the calendar and announcements, but to navigate to the culminating task, the easiest way is probably to go through content. And once you click on content, you're going to scroll down on the left-hand side until you see Unit 2 Metabolism. And then you're going to scroll down until you'll see Unit 2 Culminating Task. When I click on this, I'm going to get the culminating task and some supporting materials. So here, where it says Metabolism Mitoposter Interview Culminating Task, I click on that. I already have it open on my computer, so I'll just drag it over. You'll see our task. So here is our task. You are not creating the poster, but you are responsible for being able to explain the poster. So anything that is on this poster, I could ask you. A lot of these are really detailed. However, if you understand cellular respiration from beginning to end, then you should be able to point to and explain anything that's bulleted on here. So before I continue explaining with the instructions, let's go to the exemplars. So in order to find the exemplars that I assigned to you, you're going to keep on scrolling down in the Unit 2 Culminating Task folder, and you'll see the exemplary posters. And you'll see exemplar 1 through 14. So these posters were for you to look at. You could have downloaded it, you could have just played around with it on your computer. But when I test you or interview you on Monday, whether or not you're in class or whether or not you're at home, I'm going to be using Lumio. So I put a link in the announcements for accessing this file. And what you're going to do is you're going to look for your exemplars. So they're 1 through 14 on here. Oh, 1 through 13, and there's one's missing. So double check to make sure you have the correct one in there. Hopefully 1 through 13 corresponds with 1 through 13, and I'll just add the 14th one. I'm done here. And so let's say you're going to assign exemplar 1. Right, so click on that, and then you're able to access it, and this will be your poster. Okay. Now, when I go to my instructions, I could ask something like, show me the inner and outer membrane of the mitochondria, because that is one of the things that is on the culminating task. So if I ask that question, it's not enough for you to tell me, you have to show me. So you're going to pick up your mouse, you're going to pick up your stylus, you're going to pick up your whatever you're using, and you're going to use the pen tool on the left-hand side here. For some reason my tablet's not working, so I will just use my mouse here. And then you're going to say the inner membrane is, here, and I'll hear your voice because you're in class or online, and it'll tell me the outer membrane's here, and now you've identified it. Okay. Or I can go through and I can say, oh, tell me about the glucose and how it enters the cell. So if I said something like that, you go to your poster, you're able to manipulate your poster, so you can grab the manipulation tool here. See how it's kind of small, and you want to make it bigger, you can do that as well. When you make it bigger on your screen, it doesn't go bigger on my screen, so I'll have to make it bigger to see what you're doing. And then I'm going to grab the pen tool, and sorry, the pointy tool, I'll drag it down a bit. I'll grab the pen tool, and I'll start talking. I'll say glucose is outside the cell, it's this, that, and the other thing. I'm not going to tell you the answer. And then there's some special something magic that brings it into the cell, and once it's in here, it transforms into glucose 6-phosphate. So when you are talking about it, you have to show me where it is on the poster, and you have to show me, the beginning and the end of whatever I ask, and I'm looking to see that you can show it to me as well as explain it. If you give me a really good thorough explanation, I might cut you off because I'm only interviewing you for 10 minutes, and it's really easy to tell if you understand the material. Because I'm interviewing you for 10 minutes, it is open book, yes, but if I'm interviewing you for 10 minutes and I ask you a question and you spend 2 minutes looking for the answer, you're not able to answer the question immediately, it means I ask you less questions. If I ask you less questions, then you might not be at the highest level. You might not achieve the level that you want. So if I generally say I ask 5 questions in a 10-minute interview, and I only ask you 2 or 3 because you're spending 2 or 3 minutes looking up that answer somewhere as opposed to having it in your head, then that's a problem. That will affect your mark. So do be aware of that. Another question could be, looking at the chart here, you'll see references to transport proteins, the transition reaction. So I might say identify the transition reaction. So if you're on your poster here, you would show me, oh, well, there's pyruvate, and if there's oxygen available, then it'll be transported into the mitochondria, into the matrix, and then the transition reaction will occur in the matrix. And see how I'm manipulating it? Right. So the pyruvate goes into the matrix, and then the PDC catalyzes the reaction, and you have carbon dioxide coming out, which goes to somewhere. You have NAD being reduced to NADH. You have coenzyme A coming in, and you end up with acetyl-CoA, and then that's for you to go through Krebs cycle. So I'll be listening to your language. I'll be looking to see that you can point to things. I'll be looking to see if you can show me where these go. You might be very specific to say, oh, the NADH is reduced, and then it goes off the electron transport chain, and you can show me where that is. On this particular poster, things are separated. So for this poster in particular, you do have to move around a bit in order to show me things moving around the mitochondria and or the cytoplasm. Okay, so as I mentioned, anything on here is fair game. There's also other general questions around cellular respiration. I can ask you about, typically beginnings and ends. So what is the reactant of glycolysis? What is the product of glycolysis? What is the reactant of Krebs cycle? What is the coming into the electron transport chain? What is the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain? There's certain questions on here that you can expect me to ask, like poisons. So I will ask you a question about a poison, number 10 here, and you have to explain a poison to me, and you have to show it to me. You can't just talk about it. If you just talk about it, you're not going to get the marks. You have to show me where oligomycin or carbon monoxide actually have their effect. The only part you're not putting on the poster is this inquiry question, which you're calculating, and you're going to show me a breakdown on a sheet of paper, and you're going to submit that separately, either digitally or by hand. There's a lot of calculations on here, so you do it by hand and then hand it in. That's perfectly fine. All right. I think that about summarizes it. So once again, you have access to this practice area. You can go to your particular poster. What I want is that when I'm doing my 10 minutes, you shouldn't be lost in the technical. Like, you shouldn't be spending a minute trying to figure out how to move the poster around the screen, or how to make it bigger or smaller, how to erase lines that you might have put on the page because they're in the way and I'm asking you a new question. You should be able to manipulate the software, Lumio, and be able to answer the question so you're not wasting time with things that aren't going to give you any credit. So that's why I'm putting this up here for practice. All right. So I can't really give you any hints per se, but I've given you quite a few hints in my teaching. And I've told you things that I expect you to know. Knowing the energy flow, and making a connection between the mitochondria and the chloroplast. So this particular poster, I don't remember if there's a chloroplast on here on this one. Yeah, this one doesn't have a chloroplast, but you can still make a connection because you could easily draw your own chloroplast somewhere else and then show me the connections. There were certain things in class where I talked about the cytoplasmic NADH and how does it get into the mitochondria. So that's a really good question for you to ask to see if you were paying attention and you have, paying attention to detail. Remember that the more you know, generally the harder question I ask. So if I start asking you really hard questions, then it's not that you're going to, get a 50 or something like that. If I'm at a point where I'm asking you very challenging questions, then you're already at a 90 or maybe a 94 or 95, and now I'm just trying to determine if you're a 96 or 97 or 98 student based on how you answer my questions. So it's a choose your own adventure. If you can't answer the hard questions, I go the easy way, and then we determine if you're level 1 and level 2. If you answer the hard questions, then I ask harder questions, and we determine if you're level 4+, 4++, and so on. All right. Hopefully that is clarity, and you understand what to do with the Mitoposter. I will post up a schedule probably the next day, so you know when you're going to be presenting. I'm doing, I'll make up an order. I'll probably do online students first and in-school students towards the end. That's probably my order that I'll do. Make sure you're there for your time slot. And Yeah, for online, I guess what I'll have to do is, because there's so many of you, I'll have to have a waiting room and a place where I actually meet you. So I'll probably have one of the Google Classroom breakout rooms is where I'll probably run the interview, and then as a class, you'll just be sitting in the regular Google Classroom for the duration of the class. When I'm done your interview, then I don't need you sitting in the Google Classroom class any longer. Just make sure that you're monitoring the announcements or whatever, because when we do finish the interview, then I'll probably talk to the class about something. And then Tuesday, of course, is our test, and we'll see how that treats us. All right. So hopefully that clears up things what you need to do, and I will see you on Monday. For those of you in school, you're always welcome to come at lunchtime and ask me questions on Thursday or Friday. For those of you at home, you can send me an email, but I don't really check my emails if I'm busy in school during lunch. I will answer the email eventually, but you clearly won't get the same response time as students who are here in school.